Hey guys, Doug Mag Rifleman. So we're going to be reading Genesis 6 today. Yesterday on Shabbat, when I was reading these, I went straight from 5 to 6, which is why I have the weird video coming up. But wanted to let you know we decided to split these up into individual videos. So if people are trying to find individual chapters, they can do so more quickly. So without further ado. Alright guys, we're going to carry on into 6. I'm not sure if we'll do this as a separate video or if I'll just put a time mark in the description so that those that are interested can skip forward to chapter 6, depending on what they're using this video for. Regardless. And it came to be when men began to increase on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men that they were good, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And Yahweh said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever in his going astray. He is flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of Elohim came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, the men of name. And Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And Yahweh was sorry that he had made man on earth, or made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. And Yahweh said, I am going to wipe off man, whom I have created from the face of the ground, both man and beast, creeping creature, and birds of the heaven, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of Yahweh. This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with Elohim, and Noah brought forth 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. And Elohim looked upon the earth, and saw that it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And Elohim said to Noah, The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And see, I am going to destroy them from the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and outside with a covering. And this is how you are to make it. The length of the ark is 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. Make a window for the ark, and complete it to a cubit from above. And set the door of the ark in its side, make it with lower, second, and third decks. And I myself am bringing flood waters on the earth, to destroy all flesh, in which is the breath of life from under the heavens. All that is on the earth is to die. And I shall establish my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. And all of the living of all flesh, 2 of each, you are to bring into the ark, to keep them alive with you, a male and a female. Of the birds after their kind, and of the cattle after their kind, and of all creeping creatures of the ground after their kind, 2 of each are to come to you to keep them alive. As for you, take of all food that is eaten and gather it to yourselves, and it shall be food for you and for them. And Noah did according to all that Elohim commanded him, so he did. Yeah, we're going to break this down to individual chapters so people can find this for easier reference. And the same as we did before, we're going to read this word through, and then we'll speak about what we've read. And I will organize this video, being my first time here in a moment. I will organize this video to be Genesis 5 individually, 6 individually, 7 individually, etc. Though I'll read these more or less continually, but I will stop and go back in these videos. I want to share my thoughts on the chapter which we just read. I'm not going to do so until the end of the video so that there's no confusion between when my words stop and the word begins. I want to separate the word as the word and my opinions or my understanding of the word at the time. I want to separate those things, obviously, for you guys, so there's no confusion if you're watching this while it's not the Sabbath like it is today. If you're watching this while you're at work and you're focused on something and you lose direction for a second and you hop back in, I want you to know whether or not you're listening to my words or the Father's. So we will distinguish it that way. So with that being said, now we'll talk about chapter 6. So here we have the description of the world as it is when the Father decides to do the flood. Sorry, guys. So, and it talks about the description of how men were in these days. And it came to be when men began to increase on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, and that they were good, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. So, what we have is, at least my understanding today, is these angelic beings seeing and lusting over the daughters of men, and then taking their heavenly status and mixing that with the flesh of men. And that is, so reading on, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of Elohim came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of name. So these pagan entities that we have to contend with, this is where their heritage starts. So the reason they had these massive levels of understanding is because they were a mixing of heavenly figures and earthly figures, literally. So little g gods they indeed were, at least for the perception of man, because they, from their fathers, which were angelic beings, they had understandings of the secret of heaven and the way to manipulate man's understanding and perception of the world. And that ability to use that for themselves in their own regard is what led to the corruption of man and basically giving him too much knowledge at once. Just very similar to what happened in the garden, where man all of a sudden has a massive increase in knowledge, and we are not structured to get that level of increase in knowledge immediately. There's a reason that our path is developed to be a journey of understanding, just like Exodus for the Israelites to come in the reading, right? So they didn't one day wake up and Moses was like, and then give them this perfect understanding. It was, hey, we're going to have faith in this pursuit of understanding into the wilderness where we will learn the understanding. It's not an immediate thing. This immediate thing is how we corrupt men. And that's what we had in the garden. It's what we have before the ark. It's what we have, in my belief, in the 1800s when these angelic beings were let from Sheol to pursue their means again. And then we see this massive increase of technology. So, and these are the things that corrupt man, corrupt flesh, this rapid learning, this rapid exposure to things that they aren't necessarily supposed to experience that rapidly. So with that being said, with that, the Father sees what's happening and how it's going to be spiraling out of control. It says that where are we at? Okay, 6:5. So chapter 6, verse 5, and Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. So for a lot of us, that would be hard to imagine, but think, if you will, if every single inclination you had was to do evil to your fellow man, if every single inkling was how you could just scrape yourself ahead rather than lending a hand to your neighbor, right? This is in stark disagreement with the with our perceptions of how we should live, right? And then it says, but Noah, this is in 6:8, but Noah found favor in the eyes of Yahweh. So let's see, where's this thing I wanted to reference? Oh yeah, just keep reading, right? This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with Elohim. So here we have an example of righteousness in man. And it says perfect in his generations. Not perfect in being. He wasn't Messiah, but in his day, he was doing his absolute best to walk with the Father. Now, here in this book, it doesn't go too deeply into what that means, but we can understand that if we look at other examples throughout Scripture, that is a continuing effort to search out the Father and to try after his own heart, just like King David, for example, where he had plenty of stumblings. He wasn't perfect, but his pursuit and intention was perfect to try to appease the Father and to be righteous, right? So because of his belief and his action and his interest in walking and pursuing the Father, he was chosen with favor from Elohim and given this task to basically pursue the ends of the Father, which is what we're called to do as men. So it really, there's a lot in here, and we could talk for days about it. But what I would urge you to just take a moment and read this for yourself quietly and pray that the Father shows you some of the things we can learn from here. How even though the world around us is corrupt, we can still seek after him. And it truly is, in such a grievous time that in which he lived, we can still seek out the Father and pursue his will for us, okay? But anyway, I hope that brought you guys something. This has been done with Medic Rifleman. If it's the Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom. If it's not, continue getting after it so you can come into the Sabbath this week to come. It is the Father's gift, and do your best to enjoy it. See you guys on the next one.